Hey everybody, how's it going? VaulSC here. We're going to take a look at another game of infiNity, this time between the Dashat company, Sectorial, the Mercenaries, NA2, up against PanOceania, the vanilla faction, the hyperpower. And we're going to be doing it on Transmission Matrix. This is the mission where there are 5 objectives in an X shape, and they all count as repeaters for both sides. So you can go all-out hacking and not have to worry about, firing pitches and things as much. You have everything in range just about, and hackers are always going to be in range of each other if at least one of them is within range of one of the objectives. Now, one way to play this is to take as many hackers as you can and try and out-hack the other player and winning the cyber war and then having free reign over all of their hackable stuff. The other strategy, and this is a very popular strategy, is to bring a list for the mission that doesn't have any hackable things whatsoever, or at least not any important hackable things. And this is going to be one of those games. So if you want to see a lot of hacking, maybe go over to my last Transmission Matrix game, which was between Invincible Army and Nomads. That one was a real doozy in terms of hacking. This game, though, I'm going to be taking a very specialized Dashat list, which really does away with most of the Zuyongs and Rushi and that kind of thing, and includes the less hackable things like McMurrah and Saito Tugan. My opponent is trying to make PanOceania work without having hackable stuff in the same way, and PanOceania is one of the factions, in fact is the most faction that gets hit the hardest, because all of their best stuff arguably is hackable, all their tags and their bulleteer and that kind of thing, but yet they still have some really useful things, and we'll see that next. Let's look at the lists. Oh, by the way, just before we do that, just that reminder that Transmission Matrix is one of those missions where it's end of round scoring. Going second can be very powerful because you can look at the board, and if you see your opponent's objectives, and we'll just lay it out right here. I'll grab a green pen. So objectives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If your opponent goes first, well, they may capture 1, 2, 3, and you have the choice of killing whatever's in the middle and moving your own model onto it, or maybe a marker state model that's worth a lot of points, and you just automatically score 2 points at the end of the round. Or if they've really locked it down very hard, you come around the flank and take one of the other ones. It's that easy. As the game goes on, though, if you start running out of models because your opponent's been very aggressive in your opponent's turn, that can make the game very hard. There is a designated target, which is worth 1 point if it's killed, a bonus 2 more points if it's killed by the enemy data tracker, and there is 1 classified objective. So, that's what the mission's like. It can be very powerful to go second, as I mentioned. Note that there is no HVT, there's a designated target, so some of the classifieds won't work against a designated target very well. Okay. Let's look at the armies which are going to be played here. So we'll take a look at my Dashat company list first. Obviously, McMurrah in there, we know he's overpowered. We've talked about him in other videos. If you're not familiar with McMurrah, maybe ask on the forums or social media. Somebody will be quick to tell you how broken he is, and we'll see the value of him in this game as well. Valeria Gromos is a hacker. She is hackable. Therefore, it can be a mistake to take her in this mission because your opponent, if they've got a killer hacker, is just going to kill her turn 1, and you've lost a 21-point model like that. The reason I'm taking her, though, is that she can pair up with the Zuyong, who's got a 10 bot to deflect the level 2. The Zuyong's also hackable, but they're both benefiting from that level 2 deflector, which is very strong. So if your opponent reveals a hidden deployment killer hacker just to kill her, that can be useful information. She might even win the face-to-face roll because she's willpower 14, and she's got that deflector helping her out, and she just goes for a brain blast, which could put your opponent in a compromising situation where they have to spend a lot of orders and potentially lose the fight. The other thing about Valeria is that if your opponent really does have any hackable stuff like PAL bots and flash pulse bots that are moving around the table, you actually do have that hacking ability if your opponent has decided not to take any hackers of their own, right? So that is an interesting way to do it, and I don't mind getting my Zuyong Oblivion and Valeria, kit by killer hacking device, because they're not what the list is about. They are sort of hangers-on that take advantage of an opponent not bringing any hackers in some ways, and are pretty defensive against a very overly hacking opponent. And let's face it, if your opponent has got like 4 hackers out to win the hacking war, those hackers are not going to have any effect on the rest of this army list, and it should be an advantage to Dashat overall. Here's the interesting thing. Valeria is a wild card, and the 4 bounty hunters that have taken this list are all wild cards. So what they can do is they can start the game in a Zuyong link team where you've got your one Zuyong. It recently got errated that, Zuyong has to be in the link, and other wild cards have to join him. There has to be at least one of them. So they're all benefiting from Deflector level 2 if you're up against hackers, for example. But there's also a Brawler Multispectral Visor level 2. So what you can do is shift all of your Bounty Hunters and Valeria as wildcards to make a Brawler Link team instead, buffing up the ability for the Brawler to do a lot of serious sniping. Note that you've got Saito Tagan in this list and McMurray to put the smoke down, and that Brawler can be extremely powerful in that 5-man link. So the way I play it is that I first consider which faction my opponent is. Let's say they're playing Toha or Ariadne or something like that, unlikely to have hackers in there. And then you would just, ignore the Zuyong. You don't really need him. Whereas if you're playing against Tunguska, may as well put Valeria there, let them waste the orders, from Merry Problems to kill Valeria, and then just carry on with the rest of the game with your not hackable stuff. The other cool thing about this is that one of the bounty hunters has a red fury, so that's very powerful in the 5-man link. But with 4 of them, you're bound to roll up some decent rolls on that booty level 2 chart. Some of them are going to start to have direct template weapons, extra armor, maybe ODD, maybe an HMG in there, and that starts to become a very flexible, useful link team where because the odds of getting something really, really good is so high. They can be very well equipped, armed to the teeth. And even if they don't get good rolls, the SMGs and Arclight Canons are very, very useful, as we all know, and they're so cheap. 3 flashball spots. Saito Tagan, very good for Transmission Matrix because he's not hackable. He can put smoke down in the middle and he can kill things in close combat that'll be in the smoke in the middle of the table. That is just critical. So 39-point swing as well with the camo state. Saito Tagan, really, really good trooper for this mission because he doesn't need to be a specialist, so really, really strong. Dr. Dozer with Tracking Mules just pumping out the orders, and the Libertos, really, really good in the midfield. We know we're going to be doing midfield fighting because it's going to be often about that middle objective, and Ghulam Lieutenant. So really happy with this list. The only weakness is that, again, you can lose Valeria straight away in a hack out, but if that's going to happen, I don't really mind. The game's still very winnable after that. My opponent's list is even more intriguing because it's a Pano list with no hackers whatsoever, no remotes whatsoever except for the Palbot, to be honest. So Palbot doesn't require a hacker to be in the list. So let's have a look through. What he's done is he's gone and cherry-picked all of the other good non-hackable Pano profiles, in my opinion. It's looking really good. So we've got a Crocman mine layer. Love that, because the Crocman's in hidden deployment, the mine's on the table. Doesn't need to be a specialist for this mission. Nis HMG, pretty standard for this particular player. Kamau HMG. Well, I don't know about the Kamau HMG. What you're doing there is you're saying, well, I don't also have a bullet here and I need another gun, so I want to spend that single SWC point. It's not bad, can't fault it, but if you've already got one HMG in the list, I'm pretty sure there's something else you could find in there. I would have personally preferred a maybe an Echo Bravo or an Akali, something like that, myself, but that's more my style. Regulars with mine layers, again, these guys are good units. They've got sensor, good for discovering and good for blocking runs onto the objectives and transmission matrix. Zulu Cobra, one of the absolute best profiles in PanOceania these days. 29 points for a sensor assault pistol, so triangulator fire, what have you got? Plus the jammer, and the jammer's just golden in this mission, as we're about to see. Fusilier, Lieutenant, and Decoy. Don't want to be assassinated too easily. 2 different Krakots, one with 2 SMGs, one with 1 SMG. Crocman boarding shotgun, again, good value. Better than the combi rifle in some spots. You know your opponent's going to be moving things out to the midfield. He's very strong in the midfield. Hexa multi-sniper rifle. I kind of prefer the Swiss Guard missile launcher, but the Swiss Guard would be hackable in this mission. So nothing wrong with the Hexa here. Tech B for a flash pulse. No Joan to make them all regular, but Joan would be a liability in this mission because she'd just be hit by an Oblivion or something. Warcore, Helot, obviously Helot staple, and the Trauma Doc Palbot. Note that there are 3 points missing. I'm just reconstructing this list from memory. Obviously, upgrading one Krakot to 2 SMGs would be one way to complete this list. I don't think he actually had that. I think there was something else there that I'm missing. One of these profiles slightly more expensive, but this is roughly what he had. So let's get on to the game. We both roll our dice for the lieutenants. I managed to win that roll-off. So for me, taking this game seriously, going to try and go for second turn. That's the best way to win. We basically agreed to make one table side fairly worse than the other. So this table side is not as good as this one, because this one over here has got a nice big building. I'll just minimize my face a little bit down here. So the one that you're seeing pictured on your left has got more tall terrain. It's got like this objective room with no doors, that kind of thing, whereas this one has got these precarious little hills. And this piece of terrain offers some height, but it's a bit awkward to leave from. So he's relegating Dashat over to this side, and PanOceania over to this side. So I have to deploy first and take second turn, weather the storm, and move everything out into the middle. I'm about to show you a photo of where Saito Togane is hidden deployed. It's in that particular spot behind that billboard, so that is where he's going to be to move towards the center of the table later on, and of course throw his smoke grenades. There he is. As I was snapping photos, I realized my phone was making noises, so I decided to snap off a couple of shots in midair just to help disguise Saito's location. But you can sort of see roughly that I've got the tractor mules and dozer on one left flank, and then the link team and all of the peripheral guys on the right-hand flank, plus Liberto's in the midfield. So let's go through it. Grabbing the pen. Designated target here on the right-hand side. Let's move this. This is a mine. That is a Liberto. Then you've got a flash pulse spot here, and then we've got the link team. So this is the Red Fury bounty hunter. That's 1, 2, 3 more bounty hunters with SMGs. The Zuyong tactical awareness in the middle. You've got Valeria Gromos. The 112 doctor next to her. Gulan lieutenant in the back. I recently bought a box of Dead Zone miniatures. These are not infiNity Corvus Belli miniatures. They are from a different games designer. And the models are not very good quality, very low quality plastic, but the actual models themselves look very passable as bounty hunters and Valeria, and as you'll later see, Libertos. So that is what you're seeing here. There's a closer look at my Valeria Gromos proxy. Looks like she's holding a cell phone in her hand. She is a hacker. Got Joe, of course, Scarface. He's going to be one of the bounty hunters, lieutenant and doctor next to them. Brawler Sniper nearby. Originally I had him standing up, but before I finished my deployment I decided to change my mind and put him prone again, just because I was worried that if he did have a Hexa killer hacker, and I didn't know whether he did or not at this point, the Hexa killer hacker might kill Valeria, and then that would break the link team and the Brawler would be more susceptible to an HMG. Libertos hanging around. Let's have a look at them. So real Libertos and mine. And this is a real Libertos and a mine here. And you got the central objective there, very, very important. Move this once again. You can see the mine up top there. And of course, Saito Togane is right there. Another look at the tractor mules and the flashball spot on the left-hand flank with the dozer. Dozer staying within objective range at all times, just so I don't have to spend any orders getting anybody nearby to that thing. And yet another overview look. Now that I've finished deploying, we can see that this guy here, Bounty Hunter, is the link leader and is including the following models. So we're making a Zuyong link team with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Joe is not part of the link team, and the Brawler Sniper is not part of the link team at this point. But they can be used to form link teams later. My opponent has a Fusilier in the corner here, plus a regular mine layer nearby who's putting a mine to defend this model, making it look like this is his lieutenant, even though it's not. Elsewhere, the building above the lieutenant that we just, the Fusilier that we just pictured, has a trauma doctor just out here prone behind a wall. This is a very big giveaway that he's got something in hidden deployment or in the reserve slot, which may go next to the doctor. So that's me suspicious that there's a Swiss Guard, a missile launcher, or a Hexa sniper. This is his designated target, right here. Then we've got a Warcore next to his objective. I've got the regular mine layer who's putting his mine out into the middle of the building where the lieutenant is. And then there's the Zulu Cobra prone behind this planter, I believe. Moving on, there's the Pelbot right over here at the back. You've got an objective room with a lieutenant. So just coming back to his list, I see another Pelbot there. It looks like he did have 2 Pelbots, and that does make a lot of sense, right? So if you add the Pelbot in, yeah, you've got the extra Pelbot, and that takes his list up to 300 points. So more mines. There's a Halot in there somewhere, plus the Zulu Cobra. You can see a Krakot in the distance, which we'll see pictured a bit more clearly soon. And the Camo HMG is at the back of this objective room here. He will have first turn, so he'll have opportunity to reposition things. Oh, and there's a mine placed nearby to this objective there, I think. I know there's a lot of mines in this list. Left-hand side of the table. Deployment. So that's the lieutenant. You've got regular mine layer, Tech B, 2 Krakots here and here. This is the one with extra speed and super jump, and this guy has something like +1 armor by immunity. Can't remember what this camo marker actually was. I think maybe that's the Halot, and one of the other camo markers is a mine. We'll get onto that later. My reserve trooper is brand new McMurray, and I've just spent a bit of time painting him. I was very inspired by a thread by Maru on the infiNity forums, who's a really interesting painter, and I love his style. He's not the absolute best I've ever seen technically, but I love his color choices and his technique. So I copied a little idea from him that a lot of dogs and wolves have a sort of pinkish, pale sort of colored skin in their ears and parts of their nose, so I mixed in a little bit of pink with the grey coloring I was giving him, especially in the ears and the nose area, which I think really made a big difference. The blue, not sold on the midnight blue. I might actually add some tartan over that after all, but this guy's a not so Scottish tier like McMurray at the moment, but he is going to be very powerful this game, heading out and deploying behind these boxes. Opponent's reserve trooper is a NIS HMG, and he's putting the NIS HMG in a position where it's standing up. It's making use of this planter with a little bit of low-vis cover, in a position where if McMurray does impetuous over the top of the boxes, the NIS is going to get a free shot, and of course ignoring the smoke dodge. Data tracker choices now. This particular bounty hunter here is going to pick up the data pack, and this particular Krakot's going to pick up the data pack, knowing that it's on the same side as my designated target. We'll be able to swoop in for a quick 3 points. If you're going first in this mission, it's a really good idea to try and complete that element of the mission with killing a designated target with a data tracker, because it's going to be very hard to get the other points out of your opponent, and what you want to do is try and get those points early and wear them down and get them to a position where they just don't have enough steam left at the end of the game to actually take the objectives back, and that could be a great way to win with first turn. Because I'm running no less than 4 bounty hunters in this list, I decided to give them all names to make them easier to remember and roll them up separately. So Joe is represented by the model that is actually Joe from Scarface. He rolls up a breaker rifle. Pino is the bounty hunter that has this little block of wood on his base with the letters PNO something 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 etched into it. He rolls up +3 armor. Zeke is a bounty hunter with a grey cape, and he gets a bike, and me and my opponent, we have an interpretation of the bounty hunter level 2 booty rules that if you roll something up, you don't have to keep it. So Zeke opted not to be on a bike because that would have made him more visible. And then we have Hirashi, a Japanese-sounding name, just because it's represented by a actual Kempaitai model with a red Fury already, and that gets +1 armor. These rolls, very disappointing. You can potentially get direct template weapons, you can potentially get HMGs and stuff like that, ODD. So it's a shame not to get any of that in this this lineup. My opponent now moving out, and this is a Krakot moving into the building with Impetuous. There's a mine up top there, which is not going to air roll, of course. Then the other one comes through to the side. There's nothing really covering him. The designated target does block line of sight to the Liberto and the mine on that side. So what he does is he just swoops in, uses Berserk to just blow up the designated target very, very easily. He does get stunned in return because it's a Berserk, not a normal roll. So unfortunately he does get stunned and won't be able to do any more damage this turn. But designated target is destroyed. 3 points on the board for Pano. Then we have the Tech B moving up and getting into a better position to supply some flash pulse arrows. We also have the Zulu Cobra moving towards the middle of the table to set up his jamming shenanigans, which is going to be very, very annoying. So he goes through to the middle of the table, sets up next to the truck, and goes prone. Then we have a coordinated order, which does involve the Krakot Renegade moving back here, setting off the mine, so at least removes a mine. And he can't do anything else really because he's been stunned. So it's just a move coordinated order with everybody else. I personally feel like this is a little bit of a mistake, because if you have the opportunity to keep a Krakot alive in your opponent's territory, it's much better to try and go for a dodge or something like that. But he does continue moving around, and luckily for me, fails the armor save and does lose this Krakot right here. Would have been really annoying to try and deal with him in my turn. Elsewhere, though, we have the irregular mine layer moving forward and placing another mine here during his move. You can sort of see alongside the Pano deployment zone here and the nest in the distance. Then we have him setting up to cover the right-hand flank. This is covered by a potential Hexer as well. Just doesn't want people coming around this side, getting ready to block them off. And further towards this building on the other side of the table, with the Krakot inside of it, the other regular placing a mine next to the door, just pumping out those mines. It's like an absolute mine farm, mine factory going on. And elsewhere, also moving up with the Doctor's Pelbot to a position where if he does lose the Nis or loses the Zulu Cobra, he'll be able to come in and potentially revive it. Helot carefully positioning to a spot where he can get to this door, but not any further around. He doesn't want to come and see through that line because he'll be up against the Brawler Sniper, which will very likely destroy him. So just playing it safe, playing it cautiously in this early stage of the game. Suppression fire now for Krakot with double SMGs. In the building here, he does have a line through the spot. This is going to be annoying for me later because one of my plans is to move through this section of the board with my link team and set somebody up in the middle of the table with the objective in my turn in the second game round, end of first game round, to get some scoring happening. Killing a Krakot with suppression fire up, it makes it just more difficult because he might get a crit or win the face-to-face roll somehow, and that would be freakishly annoying given that he's got shock ammunition. Right. So it's now the end of Pano turn 1 and the beginning of Dashat turn 1. Seeing the opportunity for a bit of work on my opponent's side of the table, I'm deciding to activate Saito Tugan, starting here and moving over here. This will cause a delay from his walker on the distance, and nothing can happen from this mine and this Zulu Cobra, which are prone, basically. And that will allow me to throw a smoke grenade down around about here. Just because I'm worried that there may be an arrow coming from this building here. He could potentially have a Hexer or a Swiss Guard missile launcher or something like that. And I don't want to move my link team out without covering off that possibility. I mean, if he did have a Swiss Guard missile launcher and the link team moves out, that missile would basically end the game. It would be absolutely devastating. But if I can block that path off, I can then go into the center of the table. It'll be easier for me to put some expensive models there and actually win the game round in terms of the scoring. But then I can also, while I'm at it, shoot my Red Fury through there, take out a Tech B, take out the Krakot, and potentially even come further around and flank through and actually kill his Nis around with my Red Fury as well. So Saito shows up, throws a smoke grenade down there, and you can see it represented by that little blue marker. Warcore fortunately fails his flash pulse check in response, and Saito is away free. What we're then doing is moving out with a link team quite aggressively. So Valeria hops down the stairs, comes down through here. Well, it's pictured further left as the stairs. Data tracking Hirashi, the bounty hunter. We've got Pino here. We've got Zeke, all with their new names. And our friendly Zuyong as well, bringing on his Deflector level 2. He's able to do this with his Tactical Awareness Order, which does mean that the team's going to be overall more efficient. So they're moving through here. Now what I'm wanting to do is poke in with my with Hirashi, the bounty hunter, with the Red Fury first, to take on the Tech B in the distance. And this is going to do a couple of things. It may remove the Tech B. It may also break his jammer out of marker state after the smoke's been placed there. If he does have a jammer, it's going to mean that he will be revealed, and he'll be much easier to kill with McMurray, because McMurray can now move up and actually go into smoke and smash him. If he doesn't have a jammer, I can continue moving further forward and actually get a line of fire into the building with where the Krakot is, and actually take that guy out with the Red Fury as well. It does turn out to be a jammer, of course, as we know, and rather than losing my bounty hunter and having him stripped out of the team, I decided to go for a reset. So that means that the Tech B shoots a flash pulse for free and does actually blind Hirashi, the bounty hunter. He loses the face-to-face roll against the jammer, but does pass the BTS check after we realize that bounty hunters actually have BTS 3, which is great. Extra BTS for the win. So we're left in a position where I'm blinded, but not broken out of the link. I'm just stunned. I'm not isolated. And we now have the jammer model out of marker state, which is quite crucial. So there he is there. He's been broken out. Because I want to get rid of the mine that's next to him, McMurray doesn't want to have to be the one that eats the mine. I'm moving with my Libertos now, so camera marker number 5 pictured here is the mine. Camera marker number 4 pictured here is the Liberto. So he moves out. There's a walker that goes for a discover. So the Liberto reveals and fires a long-range shotgun, missing in the process. And so what happened after this? Yeah, so this Liberto model, again, is a dead zone miniature. It's not actually a Corvus Belli miniature. This does result in a jammer actually going off. But that's okay, because the walker declared a discover, not anything else. So when the jammer goes off, luckily Liberto survives it, but regardless of what would have happened there, the Liberto also is able to move in range of the mine. So he does that, and then gets jammered and isolated. I may have made a mistake there, actually. When the shotgun first went off against the walker, there would have been one jammer attempt, and then when I detonated the mine, there would have been another jammer attempt. So if I'd been isolated in the first one, I couldn't have continued that plan of moving the Libertos around to actually blow it up. I may not be remembering the sequence of the game that effectively, though. I think maybe what had happened there is that I moved around, detonated the mine, passed the armor save. Not 100% sure. Either way, he did get isolated, and the way we played it, their walker was still there. So now what I can do is move McMurray out from the blue boxes over here to this spot here, which is going to mean he'll get shot at by just the NIS HMG. And it's going to mean that that's all I get shot at by, nothing else. And luckily McMurray does survive that. He's got 2 wounds, so decent chance of living. Well, decent chance of saving gets 1 wound because he's got armor 4 as well. And that brings him out of line of sight of the NIS. So the next step is to move towards the middle of the table. And the game's getting very tactical, and you can sort of see why jammers are so powerful here. Because McMurray with stealth does avoid jammers, but I believe the ruling is that if you move and try to use stealth, but there's a model in the distance that can see you, you don't get stealth anymore. So what we have to do next is actually start throwing down some more smoke grenades and things. Otherwise McMurray is going to be in trouble. That may not be the rules, but last time I played against somebody a while back, and this came up, I got told that that's how it works. If you move with stealth and somebody else can see you, the stealth doesn't work, and other people within zone of control can react, including jammers, is what I get told. Okay, so there is the other Krakot with suppression fire, and I'm realizing that if McMurray keeps moving through, he might have to contend with the suppression fire from the Krakot, and I don't want that. So this little camo marker in orange down the bottom is actually Libertos moving from the other side here, through the door, through the building, and towards the Krakot. That allows me to just pull around here, staying in cover, and blasting him close range with a shotgun. So I'm +6, -3 for suppression fire, and he's +0, but -3 cover, -3 for surprise attack. And this luckily pelts the Krakot with a couple of shotgun slugs, which then burst and hit the mine in the background, because his irregular has placed a mine in the doorway behind the Krakot, so that means the Libertos is going to kill both of them. Very effective way to do it, and I was very pleased that that happened. Krakot now being removed, so that's taken some of the teeth out of his list in offensive capacity. Because I've got so many orders in this army, Saito now throws down a smoke grenade, just because, again, I'm annoyed with like various things in the distance, like pistols and stun, not so much stun, but flash pulses, which can potentially stop McMurray from using stealth if that's how it works. So McMurray has thrown a smoke grenade over here where the Walker was. Saito's thrown a smoke grenade here, and this is very time consuming, but if we can end the turn having taken out both Krakos, taken out the jammer, that kind of thing, then it's going to be so much easier to win the game later on. So McMurray's got heaps of orders left. He waltzes his way over here using stealth until he makes it into close combat with the Zulu Cobra. And of course, McMurray versus Zulu Cobra, it's pretty easy, right? Now he doesn't crit, and the Zulu Cobra passes one of the armor saves, so he goes unconscious. Very important, because it's going to mean that he can be revived later in the game. But we still have plenty of orders left. Note that the position of the Link team out there, they're going to need at least 1 or 2 orders to reposition, but there's a whole bunch of orders left to spend on McMurray. So McMurray now moves around, and the goal of McMurray is to come through here and take out this Nis with HMG, because if I can take that guy out, that really takes a lot of teeth out of his list and means that the smoke becomes so much more effective later in the game. Note that McMurray moves into line of sight of a Techbee, who can hit him but can't really hurt him unless she uses a regular pistol. Same thing with the Warcore. Unless he has a regular pistol, it's not going to be able to hurt McMurray because he's immune to the effects of the flash pulses. This little bot goes for an engage to try and slow McMurray down, although I kind of wanted him to pass the engage at some point because it means that in my opponent's turn he has to shoot into combat at McMurray. You know, it's going to take longer for him to kill him. It's going to soak up valuable orders. McMurray's pretty good at, you know, fighting his way out of a close combat with a little bot like that. And the Ness, of course, wants to dodge around the side of the planter, because if he doesn't, he's going to eat 2 chain rifles. So what happens is everybody but the Ness try to, you know, go at McMurray, and the Ness goes for a dodge. So what I decide here is McMurray throws a bomb. He throws the grenade, +3 to hit, -3 for mimetism, so it's just going to be a straight 16, I think it is, and ignores everybody else. So what happens is the pistols whiff, bounce off his armor, the engage fails, and the Ness goes for the dodge, passes it, sort of gets away. No, the Ness fails it, but the grenade doesn't kill him either, I think is how it plays out. And then we find ourselves with a whole new order that McMurray can spend. Oh, and by the way, a Hexa shows up. So Hexa sniper rifle appears now, and fires a shot at McMurray, but it bounces off his iron furry hide. Note that the double action is negated by total immunity, and with armor 4, he does manage to pass the armor save, which is quite lucky. So he has not gone down to 1 wound, or 0 wounds as it were, he's still on 2 wounds. So, with McMurray deep into enemy territory, we're now sort of having a go at this Ness. So this Ness, lucky to survive so far, but his days are numbered, because he's within 6 inches of McMurray. So McMurray can move over here. We really want to destroy him, so I'm going for a Berserk, hoping that I get a crit and that he fails the other armor save, removing him off the board, because I don't want him to be revived by that Doctor who's got Pelbots every which way. So he gets shot at again by the Ness, he gets shot at again by the pistols, blah 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 blah. Note that he had also come in line of sight of the Kamau HMG as well, and knowing that this guy still has 2 chain rifles he could actually blap out instead of the sword, they just have to keep dodging him, otherwise you have the potential to lose the very expensive models. So McMurray again ignores everybody but the Ness and goes for the swing. Note that the Ness gets a dodge check, which is a normal roll, because McMurray is berserking. So the Hexa shoots, the Kamau dodges, the pistols go off at him, and again, McMurray survives every single shot. Like, they bounce off his armor, they miss him, everybody's having terrible luck except McMurray here, and he goes for the sword swing and fails to get the crit. So 2 armor saves onto the Ness against damage 16 at half armor, but the Ness passes one of the rolls, so the Ness is now unconscious, meaning I have to do even more work, but I've still got more orders left. Have to be careful though, because McMurray is burning through the orders, and once I get down to a point where there's only 2 orders left, I need to go back and move my Link team, otherwise they could be shot to death in my opponent's turn, and he still has some stuff left. So McMurray, what he's doing is he's planning on actually moving around. This is where I first considered moving him, but here's where I actually moved him. So McMurray moves from here around to here. What this means is that he can potentially fire a chain rifle down this avenue, right? 2 chain rifles, in fact. But he's moved into such a position here where he's going to come into line of a range of this Hexa as well. So the Hexa opts to dodge prone. Otherwise, the Hexa may take 2 chain rifles, and that could be pretty bad. These guys here opt to dodge as well, and the Nis is already unconscious, so nothing's going to happen there, and this bot goes for an engage, failing the engage. I kind of wanted him to pass, but he failed. The chain rifle then goes off on the Nis, and that does remove him. He doesn't pass both saves this time. And unluckily for the Warcore and the designated target, they fail their dodges, and they fail their armor saves, and they are wiped off as well. Or made unconscious, I should say. That's a pretty important difference with the Doctor still around. So McMurray doing very, very well. He's such a powerful beast because Berserk, he's not extremely impetuous anymore, so he doesn't have to run into enemy fire if he doesn't want to. You know, he's got Martial Arts 3, that AP, double action sword. He's got total immunity now, which is just bonkers good. Wow. So there's the carnage. Nis removed, and a couple of guys rendered unconscious. The last two orders, we're now moving out with the Link team. Knowing that the Zulu Cobra is destroyed, we're moving Pino, the bounty hunter here, out of the Link team. He's going to move towards the edge of the truck here and capture this objective for the end of first game round. Everybody else, so we've got Zuyong, we've got Valeria moving back, we've got Hirashi moving back, and we've got Zeke moving around the side. They're just going to go and take cover and just wait for the next game round to begin. So everybody sets up shop here. Zuyong standing up, everybody else is prone back here, and we've got Zeke at the front. Zeke's the guy who left his bike at the shop. Link leader is now the Zuyong with a 4-man Link team. Note that we've still got Joe back at home, we've still got the Brawler, so we can reform a 5-man Link later. So there's Joe there at the back. I am in fact spending a command token to reform the Link, so now we have Joe bringing up the rear, replacing the previous member we had, which was Pino, who's out by himself in the middle of the table, and the game carries on. Saito Tagan actually relocating, so he's just coming back around towards the middle of the table to the position that this Liberto started in. He's going prone. He's there because my opponent's lost the Krakots, he's lost the midfield stuff apart from the Crocmen, and we want to be in a spot to threaten the middle of the table and get into position later. And of course you can see our man here, Pino, taking up the front position and capturing the objective. Lieutenant going to suppression fire with the Lieutenant order. It's a deadly obvious Lieutenant. Nothing else can be the Lieutenant. So just in case there's some drop trooper or something, easier to defend yourself when you have suppression fire up with a free order. Repositioning also one of the flash pulse bots to cover the flank down the right hand side. Looks like a bit of a clean alley there. So again, just in case of drop troopers or anything that might show up, he's going to be sitting there. And another photo of our friendly bounty hunter P&O. Taking charge of the situation where this objective is. Alright, so my opponent. Before the game round ends, we realized that technically McMurray had actually moved into line of sight of this Fusilier here, so I decided to, even though he'd forgotten, I decided to let him have a free shot at McMurray, and after everybody else had failed, this one lone combi rifle does get into the sweet spot there and dig into the harsh, unforgiving flesh of McMurray and causing him a wound. So that's a good place to start. Turns out there is a Crocman with a boarding shotgun in this room here, and he's able to appear and fire his boarding shotgun long range at the position of the bounty hunter Pino. And the bounty hunter's shotgun is also going to spread out and take out the Liberto and the mine, which happen to be behind that bounty hunter. So great positioning, and very effective dice rolling as well, rolling like a 9 and a 10 or something like that, and it does eliminate all three models. Bounty hunter gone, Liberto gone, mine gone. So that's a great way to start the comeback. Elsewhere, I believe the Liberto was taken out by the boarding shotgun as well, so it's just boarding shotgun versus boarding shotgun. Can't quite remember what killed him. Oh, yeah, that's right. So, I didn't actually say this, but earlier in the game, when this Liberto here went after the Krakot, he'd actually passed a very thin line where the Nis HMG was able to shoot him as he did that, and the Nis actually did take him out. So, earlier in the previous turn, the Liberto had already been killed, and now the Crocman shows up with a boarding shotgun, shoots over here, and just wipes out everything on this side. Right, so we've now got a Crocman boarding shotgun in our midst. Elsewhere. So this is the point in the turn where we have the Lieutenant shooting at McMurray. McMurray trying to throw a smoke at his feet, needing a 19, so pretty good chances of McMurray actually just evading this and surviving for yet another turn. But the combi rifle does chew him down, and we do lose McMurray and say goodbye to him. And fair enough. I mean, I would have felt bad if McMurray had done any more damage than what he just did there, because that was pretty sickening. This cleans the way now for our doctor to move out with a Palbot and go after this jammer. And I'm like, oh man, I was looking at this move and I was thinking, oh, I really hope he doesn't do this. But he went for it, and the doctor's pulling around and actually getting out the medkit and going for the surgical revival of this deadly PanO trooper. And here's where the game gets a bit interesting. Goes for the whip check, fails. Command token fails it. Command token again, fails it again. Runs out of command tokens at that point. And I think we both knew that that had put him way behind. If you think about it, getting the jammer back up and running at this spot makes it really annoying for me to move in there, and I have to spend a lot of resources going after him. Whereas losing that model basically means he's got no more command tokens, which are quite important for later in the game, and he's spent an order, a couple of orders moving over there as well. So this is really quite a blow and very unlucky for our PanO friend here. And we'll talk about how this impacts the game later after we see what happens, but that was really heartbreaking that that happened. PanO Whip 12, not their, not the faction's biggest strength, but they do have some good blitz skill as well. But yeah, it's just a heartbreak to see this happen, because the chances of all three rolls failing is actually very, very low. Boarding shotgun continuing to come around and do work. So this bounty hunter is called Zeke. He's up against the boarding shotgun at this point. Even with a full link team helping him, not enough to beat a TO boarding shotgun Crocman there with cover, and he is shot to death. Elsewhere, we have another Crocman. As you can see, he's blue. Not too sure if you can see from the photo, but there's a Crocman here. Yeah, he's just blending in. That's what camouflage does next to the wall. And he's going to be moving out around here. And this is the guy with the mine layer ability. And we know that because there was a mine around here earlier in the game, which did get detonated by a Liberto. So now he's moving across here towards my side of the table. And what he's going to be doing is he's going to be heading towards my objective on my left, which is very poorly defended with only a dozer and a few bots there. As he does so, he's going to be able to come past the position of Saito Togan and just barely get line of sight to him. So it's going to be a firefight involving a combi rifle up against Tio Camo and a smoke grenade attempt. And the Crocman does actually manage to hit him and kill him. So Lowe's just had a fair bit of bad luck failing to revive his jammer. Killing Saito is actually pretty good there, because the combi rifle at that range against Tio Camo, it's pretty low dice, whereas Saito's throwing one smoke on 16 and has pretty good odds of actually placing it and surviving. But it's not to be. He's rendered unconscious, and the Crocman over this side can continue to wreak havoc. And these two Crocmen are really bringing PanO back into the game. It's coming out around here closer to where the dozer is positioned, trying to stop that. If he can kill the dozer, great, but he doesn't need to, because the Crocman's worth more points than the dozer. So it comes around here, doesn't quite have enough movement, and does run out of orders, by the way, partly because he decided to place a mine on his way over there. But Crocman, nearby to the dozer, doesn't quite kill him. And then we are left with a position like this, where he's gone prone, he's pulled back, he's just retaining cover, he's got a mine helping him out, and we've got Saito in the midfield who's been downed. Pino, the bounty hunter, has also been downed, and yeah, it's going to go on to Dashat turn 2 very shortly. Before that happens, Hellot moving out to the midfield doesn't quite have enough orders to get to cover, but he's going to be able to position his light rocket launcher in a nice sweet spot later in the game, just setting that up for now. Okay, and we have another mine being placed by our regular mine layer, starting to run out of them. In fact, he's completely unloaded all of his mines. This model in the window here is a lieutenant. My opponent throwing caution to the wind and using his lieutenant as a... Sorry, not a lieutenant. Was it his lieutenant? Yeah, it was his lieutenant. Sorry, I'd got the two Fusiliers mixed up, so there's another Fusilier in the window here. Okay, so that's the end of PanO turn 2. We now have Dashat turn 2. This Crocman here has left himself in a position where he's in the doorway. And given that there aren't anything else covering the position of this brawler, I decided to spend a command token reforming my link. So the Zuyong is left on his own for now, and we are taking Hirashi, the bounty hunter here, Valeria, and the brawler, and forming a 3-man link with them, 3-man core team. And the link leader goes to the brawler who stands up to get a shootout against this guy here. And luckily I've got MSV2, so it's 12s on 3 dice, because range cover cancel, against effectively just a dodge from that that boarding shotgun Crocman. And luckily the bounty hunter does manage to see him dead, takes him out with a couple of well-aimed sniper hits, and double action rounds seal the deal. Then we can work our way down the building and start moving towards the left-hand side of the table, because we need to do something about the other Crocman, because the central objective is going to be pretty easy to get to, but the one on my side of the table does need to be dealt with as well. It'd be beautiful if I could bring one of the tractor mules in range, because they've got baggage, but he set up some AROs against the position of the tractor mules, so we'll see that soon. But this little team here is definitely going to be needed. So we've got Valeria, Hirashi, and the Brawler Sniper. Brawler Sniper, on his way over, does have to contend with a Tech B, so we'll deal with that on the way, bringing out the sniper rifle at long range to annihilate her in the 3-man link before moving on. After the Tech B's cleared, and we've spent Group 1's orders, and this is still a very large order pool army, we're now switching over to Group 2's orders, and the 112 Doctor here, represented by a Kazakh Doctor, does climb down the stairs again, and is going to head over towards the position of Saito Tugan. Saito's a very useful piece in this kind of mission. He's worth 39 points as well, and I'm unsure just offhand as to whether he has a cube. In fact, let's look that up right now. Does he have a cube? Even if he did, I would probably not spend the command token on him. He does. The command tokens are very precious at this point, because I need to reform a lot of link teams. Anyway, Doctor moves out towards him and goes for the heal and does revive Saito. So nice play there, getting Saito back. He's going to be very, very useful. We're also able to move through and try and revive Pino, the bounty hunter, but unfortunately we fail that roll and Pino dies. But that's okay. We now have a Doctor within range of the central objective, so that's going to mean 2 more bonus points if I can deal with the bounty hunter on the left side of the table. So we're going to go do that. Everybody moves across here. These boxes are placed in such a way that I can actually vault onto the first box and then onto the second box using, the silhouette, taller than the piece of terrain rule, where I'm just clambering my way up. That's going to allow me to get a shot off on this bounty hunter, hopefully clear him out with my MSV2 and my extra fire team, and that will be that. So here it goes. Bounty hunter moves up. Now, we're able to move up in a position where I can shoot at any point in my move, and I end up moving within 8 of him, but I can shoot at the first point where he becomes visible. So that's what I do. So it's a sniper on, I think, 12s versus 1 combi rifle on a 15. And annoyingly, the Crocman actually manages to get out of there and somehow dodge around the side. Can't remember whether it's because he passed a couple of armor saves or whether he went for a dodge and actually managed to win the roll, but the Brawler is evaded here, which is irritating. We now have a tractor mule moving close towards the position of the Crocman, and the point of this is to detonate his mine. As this happens, he's going to get shot at, so the chances of getting a baggage bot within range of the objective is very, very low. I mean, if that had happened, this would have been an easy turn, because the dozer's points plus the baggage points from this bot would easily be more than the Crocman, but it does detonate a mine and takes at least 1 combi hit, so the tractor mule goes down. What that allows me to do, though, is actually move my Brawler team all the way down here, avoiding line of sight from the Crocman, and just putting the points of the Brawler and the Dozer within range of the objective. And the Crocman won't have as many points there, so at the end of this game round I'll pick up 2 more points, which will hopefully put me so far into the lead that I will have escaped reach. If you look at it, I've killed the designated target. In the first game round I got 2 points, and the second game round I'm getting another 2 points, puts me on 5. He's killed my designated target with his data tracker, so he's got 3. So it's a 5-3, and even in the last turn, if he does take the objectives back, at best he can get up to 5 points alongside me, unless designated targets are brought back to life, or unless classified objectives are achieved. But it's going to be quite hard either way. Note that Karashi the Bounty Hunter with Red Fury and Valeria Gromos have gone prone behind these blue boxes where McMurray was originally deployed. That pretty much ends it for game round 2, except for Saito Tugan going back into camo state, and our Doctor making sure that she's in range of this objective here. Otherwise, everybody's fine. So we get to a position where it's the final Pano turn, and unfortunately I've had to leave my brawler in a very precarious spot where he's just open to some serious abuse here from this Crocman, but that's okay because getting the points was more important at the end of that game round, way more important. So Crocman now pulls around here with his combi rifle and is easily able to mess up the brawler when it's the combi rifle Crocman's active turn, so it takes him out. Then we have a very, very daring play here where my opponent, with only 2 regular orders left and no command tokens left in his final turn, jumps the doctor off the building. She has to take an armor save against damage 10 and survives. Okay, so does that flying jump, and she had to do that because she has to put herself in a position where after jumping she's within 4 inches of this designated target. And you can see what's happening there. If she goes and revives the designated target, that will deny me 1 point, right? Which will basically put the score back down to 4 versus 3 in favor of Dashat. And then if there's a situation at the end of the game where I don't actually recapture the objectives one last time, he could actually win because that could take him up to 6 points. 5 points to my 4. Which would be a really horrible loss, but actually very potentially possible at this point. So there it is. Doctor moves in. Does she pass the check? She does pass the check. Would have been heartbreaking if she failed, but it does come through, and we're all yelling and cheering and celebrating on the side of the Pano table. Now Crocman moves around with ruthless efficiency, slays the brawler, who doesn't even have cover at this point. He's also able to go after the dozer and rip up the dozer as well. The Helot, making an extremely daring play. Note that the Helot has neurocynetics, can only fire with burst 1 in his active turn, decides to go for a long-range Hail Mary rocket launcher shot against Valeria Gromos, who's positioned there, and he can only just barely see her base. Like, there's a tiny bit of it, but we played it that he can see it. So Valeria's got to dodge, the bounty hunter next to her's got to dodge, and the rocket lands and blows them both the fuck up. Like, they just get obliterated. So a beautiful Helot play. Note that the Helot does get shot by this model here, the Kazakh Doctor with Rifle, who, with furious vengeance, gets revenge and avenges the rest of the Dashat company here by shooting the Helot dead with her rifle. Note that she is still in position to control the objective in the middle. Crocman has run out of mines now, but he does indeed place another mine. So that's that. And we have the Brawler, of course, being slain, and the Dozer having been slain, and the Crocman set up to possibly win the game. Elsewhere, there's a regular laying another mine and getting a nice position. This regular is going to be important later in the game, just setting up a line along to nearby where Saito is. And then we have him going into suppression fire as well, so he's going to be causing a bit of trouble. Alright. That's the end of Pano play. The final turn is in progress for Dashat, and the issue is that the central objective is controlled by the Doctor, and one of my objectives is controlled by Zuyong, but he's got the other 3. So what I need to be able to do is to take back one of his objectives. If I just come back here for a sec, what I was going to do is bring Saito around to this side and actually put smoke grenades down and try and control this one. But now that he's started to place mines and he's got a Helot nearby and he's got this regular, it could take me too many orders. So what I'm going to do initially here is move out with my other tractor mill to detonate the other mine. And that happens, so the other mine's destroyed and the tractor mill is stopped in its tracks. No pun intended. And then we can move out with Saito. So Saito's got a lot of orders to spend, but he's got to be efficient with them, because if he stops to shoot people, he may lose fights and things could go really badly. He's starting from this position moving out, and he is going to get discovered by this chap here. I decide not to shoot him. He just goes for the discover, and I forgot that that guy has the sensor ability, giving him a bonus to the discover roll, and that does counteract the TO camo somewhat, and Saito is revealed, although this movement does take him out of line of sight of that model in the distance. There's also this bot here who's able to try and dodge closer to me, and if he does engage Saito, that will slow me down even further, even though Saito's quite good at, cutting his way out of that. So I love this photograph because there's this beautiful heavenly ray of light, shining onto Saito, revealing where he is. It's quite metaphorical, really, that he's discovered by the light in the distance, really, the spotlight landing on him. Hey, it's you. So Saito, even though, he's having a bit of a hard time, but he's moved around, and we're at a spot here where the bot dodges closer to him. What he's trying to do is he's trying to come around the side of this hill to try and sneak up behind that Crocman and throw a smoke grenade and get in range of the objective, because Saito's points value is higher than the Crocman's, and if that can be done, Saito can get near to that objective on my left without coming over the hill into line of sight of various guns. That will win the game. But it's starting to get complicated here. Seeing that I've still got an order, so Group 2 is the one with the more orders at this point. Seeing I've got a couple of orders in Group 1 left over, I mean, all the bounty hunters are dead at this point, but the Zuyong's left alive. The Zuyong can use a tactical awareness order to move around and fire at this bot, preventing it from engaging Saito and slowing him down, so that's a start. Zuyong's also responsible for controlling my right-hand objective, so he has to go back there and hang out and do that. I can't really use him to go and do anything else, really. But I think this picture will illustrate the situation we're in. I have 4 orders left, and it's Saito's group with the orders. There's Saito there. What Saito needs to do is come to a point that is within 4 inches of this objective. Note that there is a Crocman there. Okay, Crocman's facing the wrong way at the moment, but we have a Fusilier over there, and we have a Hexer as well. So there's models covering this approach here. There's also an Irregular, a Condescendent Irregular there, which has a combi rifle trained along this area, which makes things a little bit annoying. And if I just jump over onto this hill or climb, the Crocman can shoot me, and I don't really want that either. So let's just get out another pen. What I'm planning to do is to throw a smoke grenade there to block off the regular. Then I'm going to re-camo, and with 2 orders left, move around here once, and then move further into this spot and just get into range of the objective without killing anybody. The problem is that I've got to pass the smoke check, and I've also got to try and avoid being discovered. So with that already thought about, Saito goes for the throw, and completely misses the throw, which is really annoying, and then just has to spend the orders. So he re-camos, and then moves around. So one move around to here, and another move around quite close to here. The last ditch plan is just to move a little bit further forward and smoke the area. But there's a potential now that with this first move he can be discovered, and with the next move within range, he has to actually pass face-to-face rolls and could die. What happens though is that the discover has failed, and Saito is able to move into range of the objective and is only discovered on the order where he does come in range of it, so he can't actually be shot. And with Saito costing more points than the Crocman, this will give me the objectives that I need. So I'm going to end up with the central objective there, and the one on the left, and the one on my right, giving me another 2 objective points to win the game by 6 points to 3. Having not killed my opponent's designated target by the end because he revived him, didn't complete the classified objective, neither of us did. And my opponent killing my designated target with his data tracker. So a 6 victory point to 3 win for Dashat, but you can see how kind of close it got by the end of that. Did luck play a big part in this game? It sort of felt like it did in some small spots. I felt like McMurray got quite lucky and did a lot of damage. I felt like my opponent got a bit unlucky trying to revive his jammer. Having said that, the Crocman actually did pretty well. I mean, he did well to not lose this particular Crocman in my active turn. His boarding shotgun Crocman actually rolled some really good dice against my bounty hunter and my Libertos and things like that. So it did start to even out in some places. Overall, I felt like I got slightly luckier than him throughout this game. I also won the dice roll for deploying for taking second turn, that is, which is quite strong. But overall, I thought he played well. His list is very good. I thought I played alright, and my list is pretty good. And this Dashat company stuff is very, very strong at the moment. And I do think that the strategy of having one Zuyong and one one bounty hunter, one brawler is quite good, because the brawler multi-sniper can be even better than the Rushi in some spots, although overall the Rushi is stronger just because it's a Rushi. But yeah, a very viable way of playing Transmission Matrix, and I really quite like it. Hopefully we'll have some more games with my other lists in near future with the Zuyongs and the Zenshas and the Rushi. But for now, really enjoying Dashat. Hope you guys are as well, and we'll see you again soon for another game.